What's up, YouTube? Today we have yet another portfolio critique, critiquing the book of student and aspiring art director Zach Abraham. Alright, so a little about Zach. He's obsessed with collecting Power Ranger memorabilia, bad cheesy design, and sneakers. I like sneakers as well.
Long ago, but not that long ago, on October 23rd, 1998, in a faraway land, a legend was born, obsessed with 90s shows like Power Rangers and Thundercats. He's the guy that collects all the action figures and doesn't take them out of the box. A true nerd. He likes sneakers and has 30 pairs, and you guessed it, Nikes only. He really likes hot wings and beignets. Together. A little weird? Yes. So, there you have it. Zach Abraham. A 90s Nike-obsessed, hot wing and beignets eating nerd.
All right, Zach, from a fellow sneakerhead to you, I absolutely loved it, and here is why. You completely differentiated yourself from a lot of other people's about sections that talk a little bit about them. You made it fun, you made it interesting, you made it engaging. You got us to get to know a little bit about you and your personality, which I think is a big missed opportunity for a lot of people when they're putting their about section together. So many times these about sections read, I love design, I love art, very generic kind of things that you see consistently from book to book. And I think yours, if a recruiter is watching this video, they're getting to know you, they're getting to know the person, not just the skills that will be incorporated into their company. So I think this gives you a big leg up, very nicely done. I absolutely love it, and I love that it's quirky, and it gets me excited for the projects. So the first thing I noticed is that This Is Me section, you basically show your about spot again, and it's the very first thing in your portfolio grid. So the first thing I would tell you, as good as this video is, axe it from the portfolio of work, leave it in the about section. Now what I will say is that you have it large on this page, and I think you should have it large on that about section. It's still a little bit small, it's almost thumbnail-esque. Get that video nice and large on that about and contact section, and leave the project section to the projects, the portfolio of work, the advertising related work that will show more of your skill sets and how they relate to the career you're actually going for. So we're gonna jump over to Venture London.
Our city is more than just a collection of buildings sequenced on a skyline, more than cute typography and corporate colour schemes. This city is an amalgamation of culture, where the contemporary and the nostalgic come together side by side, where history has been made and the future is being created. This city juxtaposes creativity with business, tradition with new cultures, and the weird with the wonderful. Taking on our city with a bike can be daunting, and using bikes that look and feel corporate and bland doesn't help this fact. We want to make this experience seem like less of a challenge and more like an adventure. Venture London showcases our city's colourful personality and diverse communities through the use of motifs, juxtaposing contrasting patterns and colours together to show off just what the fabric of our London really looks like. Our bikes are outlandish, eccentric and peculiar, just like our city. Our patterns represent who we are, and the arrows highlight your upcoming adventure in our bustling city. Our goal is to provide you with an experience of the real London, the one not shown in tourist books and cute YouTube videos, for the affordable price of 50 pence per hour. For every hour you ride with us, we will message you with one of our city's best hidden gems, like our secret hidden bar you need a password to enter. Maybe a hidden luxury boutique located past the stockroom of a sneaker store, or even where to get the best and unique sweets and treats of London. Using the Venture London app, select Find a Bike, locate the nearest bike station closest to you.
All right, so I'm gonna stop it there. And that will be my first critique, is for a recruiter or anyone looking at your portfolio, they're looking for bite-sized content. Like, how can they most effectively and efficiently get through your portfolio understand the idea and the concept without going through a 3-minute video. So what I would do is to cut your video, condense it to a minute tops. Really choose this very first video almost as a sizzle-esque kind of video to get your idea across in a very concise and effective way. And I think if you were to do that within a 1-minute spot, you could throw this how-to in the digging deeper part of this video secondary down below. Make that a separate video, a separate entity. It's better if you allow the viewer of your portfolio to make those decisions, to look at a 1-minute video, and then if they want to dig deeper, there's another video for them to do so. With that same thing being said, your brief, your insight, and your idea gets a little lengthy on the page. Recruiters are gonna look at your book from 3 to 5 minutes tops, and they have a lot of things to go through. So you really wanna bite-size this for them. Get this, condense this down. For example, this brief could simply just be create the identity of a local bike hire scheme in a city of your choosing in order to encourage people to opt for a bike over other options. Again, just condense the brief, condense your insight, and then condense your idea. Your idea should be relatively evident in all of your pieces, so you should only need to explain it in 1 to 2 sentences. But with that all being said, I think it's really beautiful stuff, and it's interesting. You're taking these different parts of the city and incorporating in this forward momentum visual aesthetic on these bikes, and I think it's a nice job. I love all the patterns that you're using and how they are inspired by the city itself. I think that makes it very unique and ownable for that particular city. And overall, your design aesthetic is great. I think you have a lot of nice things going on. Your use of patterns and multiple patterns together that don't necessarily seem natural together, you make them work and you make them fit. So big props to that. I really think this stuff is strong design-wise and looks really nice. So the app screens at the bottom, I would probably get rid of. I would just let your video tell that part of the story. I think it's too many screens right now to know what's going on from a first glance perspective. So again, split that first video, make the first part real sizzly, make it just getting the person viewing it excited about your campaign, and then make that second video that dives a little deeper. It's the deeper dive video. It goes into the UI of your app. It goes into the 1, 2, 3 steps, and I think you'll be in a really strong spot. So with that being said, Venture London, I would give this campaign as it sits today a 8 out of 10. I think there's nice thinking, and I think your design and aesthetic is very professional for a student book. So I give you big props on that. Next, we have Burberry Windsor. So the brief is to take squash, a minority sport, and turn it into a compelling customer proposition that can rival any other sport, such as football and rugby. So basically, you wanted to partner the elite British sport squash with the elite British brand Burberry. The idea is for Burberry to host a squash championship to build intrigue around the sport, advertising to an upper-class clientele in their vernacular, meaning the places the target audience is familiar with. So it's partnership play. I think partnerships is definitely an aspect that is very real in the advertising world, but isn't always seen in student portfolios. So I do like that you're exploring some strategic partnerships. I know you're going for that higher end clientele, so you're really keeping that target market in mind, and so I do appreciate that. Again, very clean design and aesthetic. You definitely have a design eye. You got some event collateral utilizing the pattern, which is cool. I do love the large macro shots that you're adding onto it. It's almost like you're showing the details of the sport, and with Burberry being a very attention to detail clothing brand, I think that's a smart play. You're making a nice little parallel there without being too in your face. The wine thing as it sits here is a little boring to me. I think it would be worth your while to include that in the invitation. Have a really nice VIP package kit that you send to people that has that invitation, but also has this nice wine bottle that you incorporate your pattern and make it, feel a little bit more cohesive with your campaign. So the streaming visual you have here at the bottom isn't the most eye-catching and appealing, especially when it's sitting next to this really beautiful kind of window cling that you've got going on up here. So with that being said, I would just revamp your in-screen streaming screen and make that just a little bit more visually appealing, and I think you'd be in a really good spot. So with all that being said, the Burberry Windsor stuff, give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it is strong from a design perspective. I think there needs to be a little bit more strategic thinking about why you're doing things the way you're doing them and how you are promoting that event. Like, what are some very interesting tactics to promote this event aside from a window cling? what is a social stunt or something else that you can do to really drive intrigue and drive excitement for, the tournament that you're putting on. All right, so we're gonna go into Chamber. So for Chamber Starflyer, you had to design an airline sub-brand for a first or business class service, create an identity that feels luxurious, flexible, and has longevity. So your idea was to keep your identity clean and simple, speaking to the fast brain with the focus of showcasing the suave and swift personality traits of the brand. Your solution was this purple maroon color liquefied artwork juxtaposed with jet black solids, utilizing type that reflects luxury. So from your type treatment to your visual aesthetic, I think everything does feel very high end. It has a nice sense of design. Again, it is nice to see how it got incorporated through all the pieces, but in my opinion, I don't know if this deserves its own section. I think if you put these pieces in a design section with other really nice design aesthetic and projects that you've worked on, I think it would probably be just as good, because I'm not seeing a huge idea here. It's just really nice design, which is great to see, but I know from the top of your portfolio, you're going for an art director position, and this leans a little bit more on the graphic design aspect of that, rather than showing that big idea and that conceptual side. So for Chamber Starflyer, at the moment, as it sits, it is still beautiful design, but we're gonna give it a 6 out of 10. And that's really just because it doesn't push anything conceptually. You're trying to get that art direction job, and so when a recruiter clicks on, 2 to 3 pieces in your portfolio and they land on this one, they're not going to learn a lot about your conceptual ability. They're gonna know that you're a great designer, but they won't get that other aspect. And you need both of those pieces to really excel and stand out for that art direction position. Just maybe think about combining it as you add more things to your portfolio to a design section. I cheated. I already went through this portfolio just to kind of look around, and this Stanley Watts stuff gets really beautiful. From your color palette to how you're making things come to life, especially the signage, like some pretty beautiful signage, if I do say so myself. You're really establishing a brand, and this is completely different from your Burberry stuff, which is completely different than your bike stuff. So you're showing diversity in your design capabilities, and I think that's really strong and smart. You want to show as a designer that you're diverse and that you can cover off on very many different design styles and aesthetics. And I think this proves that you can do that. I really love this brand. Even this little slit right here with this like provoking color palette and stuff like that, it just feels very high end and polished. And again, very, very great design skills. Packaging design, this looks beautiful. I really think you're ticking all the right boxes. And I do like that on this campaign in particular, you go deeper. You show more conceptual ability by talking about Fashion Week pop-ups, by talking about this collaboration partnership, by talking about these amenities and this photo booth and other aspects that push that brand and make the brand more of an experience than just something to look at. Currently, these large blue rectangles feel very much like a PowerPoint or Keynote slide. This is the way you would present the idea to me if I was the client, but for your portfolio, you want it to feel native to this online platform. For example, you could keep your text in a little blue, section over here on the left if you wanted to, but then on the right, let your, images get large, keep them on, the same background color as your site so that things feel just a little bit more integrated and purposeful. I like that you're going down all these different avenues, and I really like the design aesthetic of this brand. It still leans a little bit more on the graphic design side than the art director side, though I do see that you're exploring those avenues. Basically what I mean by that is it doesn't feel necessarily like a large creative big idea campaign. It does show that you're extending a brand through all these different activations and doing some really smart things with that. So I do give props to that. So for Stanley Watts, I would give you an 8.5 out of 10. I think it is one of the stronger pieces in your portfolio. I would actually lead with it potentially. So yeah, the Power Ranger one, Ranger Bishop. So I can't say that I've critiqued any Power Ranger designs, but I'm excited to. It brings you back to the childhood and it's fresh. The chance of another portfolio having a Power Ranger campaign is probably low, and I appreciate that. The brief here was to reimagine the identity of Power Morphicon, the official convention of the Power Rangers brand. Again, you can stop at that. You don't need this extra fluff. If you are gonna keep the insight as is, I would just put a space between thank you. All right, so your idea. Why not focus the identity around the idea of meeting your heroes? This identity utilizes this theme and showcases it using Bishop. the newest addition to the Power Rangers team and the official mascot for the convention. Bishop will guide guests around the convention center via large illustration decals plastered on the walls throughout the venue. He will highlight the many opportunities and services guests can experience throughout the convention. So you've got some event signage, you've got the program, some event collateral using just very simplified illustrations. It's kind of nice. I haven't really seen much of your illustration capabilities in the previous campaign, so it's showing a different aspect to your toolbox. So just one little thing that I might do is take your copy here on the left side of your collateral piece and just shrink it slightly. It'll make it feel a little bit more finesse. It'll give a little bit more breathing room between your illustration and your type. And you'd be surprised how just sizing things down just a little bit can really elevate the piece and make it feel a little bit more professional. Growing up, you're basically required to type in 12-point font on basically all of your essays and all of your papers. And I think we just get too accustomed to doing that. And then we hit the design world and we're typing our copy in 12-point font. And for most collateral, 10-point font is perfectly legible, easily readable, and is a little bit more finesse and actually looks a little bit nicer. So I just challenge you to play around with sizing of fonts and things like that just to add more breadth to your design. All right, so you go into some of the lanyards. I would love to see some more Power Ranger incorporated into that lanyard. These lines are a bit corporate, so I would just bring a little bit of the playful nature of your illustrations into those. And now you've got a wall decal of another Power Ranger. I do appreciate that you use two different Power Ranger illustrations. A lot of portfolios just reuse the same image throughout all the pieces, and I think that shows that you were willing to go a little bit above and beyond to push that campaign. So I do appreciate that. And then you've got a bag. So fine collateral materials, fine event materials. I would challenge you to blow this out way further. So what I mean by that is, how do you even notify people about Power Morphicon? What are ways you can creatively advertise this across tons of different mediums, through social media to guerrilla marketing tactics, to billboards, to print ads, to a TVC video spot? How can you blow out this campaign to be bigger and drive people to this event? What 15-second spot could you do in the middle of a Power Ranger episode? What pre-roll video could you do right before a YouTube video on Power Rangers that could get them excited about this event and make them want to come meet their heroes, as you said? And because your event is centered around a fandom, do stuff that only the fandom would truly understand. Really show that you know them. And that's gonna create a real connection from the people attending your conference to your campaign. Look for those fan insights and exploit them. Make cool stuff that drives people to this event. So for the Handshake Your Heroes Power Morphicon campaign, I would just like it to be more of a campaign. Currently, it's a lot of event signage, and though there's some nice illustration going on, I think it would be very beneficial to you to push the conceptual aperture to create more creative pieces and other ways to drive people to this event. And I think that would just make it, just a little bit more powerful and a little bit more dynamic of a piece for your portfolio. So as it sits today, I give it a 6 out of 10, but that's no knock to you. Zach, overall, your portfolio is in a great spot. Your eye for design and detail is very obvious. Your playful nature of that About Me video, I'll still remember that probably a week or two from now. The only place that you really need to build on and excel on is that conceptual thinking. How can you blow these things out to be 360-degree campaigns? Those are the things that people are gonna look for when they're hiring for that art director position. So I just challenge you to do a little bit of that, broaden that aperture of design, but also broaden that aperture of conceptual thinking. Really spend time brainstorming and thinking about, okay, I made this brand come to life visually. Now, how can I get that awareness out there? How can I really build the brand through these experiences and how customers interact and communicate with your brand? And I'm not necessarily asking you to revisit each of these campaigns and blowing out a big conceptual idea behind it. Maybe they are as simple as a design solve, but I do challenge you to create some new pieces for your portfolio. Hell, you're very passionate about sneakers. I'd love to see a campaign for GOAT or the sneakers app or something like that shows your passion and gets you excited about it and allows you to really explore some different creative avenues. So I think that could be really beneficial for you, and that would be my recommendation. But yeah, Zach, keep in touch. Let me know where you're going. And I'm excited to follow along and watch you down your journey and see where you end up. So please keep in touch. If anybody else would like to get their portfolio ripped apart, critiqued on the channel, please don't hesitate to do so. Send me a message at opendoorcreative.com in that little contact tab, and I will be sure to get to it. Like, subscribe, comment if you feel so inclined to do so, and I will see you in the next one.
Neighborhood all in your eardrums.